Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name's Faye Stinning. I'm a marketing manager here at InfoTrack. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're going to look at eCOS, which is a complete digital onboarding solution available for Peppermint clients through integration with InfoTrack to help make the onboarding journey even more streamlined and efficient. I'm delighted today to be joined by Lauren French, who's InfoTrack's eCOS product manager, and Jamie Hardie, who's the solutions architect from Peppermint, who's going to take you through today's webinar. So before we begin, I would just like to draw your attention, please, to the Q&A tab that you'll find located at the bottom of your screen. We will be running a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So if you do have any questions, either for Lauren or Jamie, please type them in along with your name into the Q&A box. And that way, if we do run out of time or if your question requires further clarification, we can come back to you directly after the webinar. Okay, so hopefully everybody's ready and comfortable. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Lauren now, who's going to start you through today's webinar. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to the webinar. I'm here to talk to you a bit about eCOS today, kind of our end-to-end onboarding solution. So if we could just hit go on the slides, if that's okay. And then there's our faces, just in case you didn't know who we were. And just a quick run through of the agenda. So I'll give you a quick overview of the onboarding process, kind of beginning to end, and how InfoTrack can help with that. And you're going to hear some terms, kind of like verification of identity, verification of funds. I will explain those in a bit more detail as to what they are. I'll give you a quick demo of our eCOS solution, so you can have a look at our ordering screen and then some results at the end. And then Jamie's going to jump on and show you the Peppermint integration there and how you can place your orders through Peppermint into eCOS. And like Faye said, Q&A at the end. Pop your questions in below. And also, I get really nervous doing these, guys. So sometimes I talk too fast. Scream in the Q&A chat to Faye to tell me to slow down. If that is the case, I really don't mind. So onto the next screen. Onboarding process. So most people will know what this is. You do it day in, day out with any conveyancing transaction or most law transactions. Kind of, we've broken it down into the 4 steps, which is your client welcome pack, which is you kind of just met someone, you want to be able to tell them, hey, come and work with us. So we've got client care letters, personal information questionnaires, matter-specific questionnaires. So we have sales and purchase and commercial questionnaires available through InfoTrack, and then also your TA forms for like property transactions, your TA6, TA13, etc. Then we've got our KYC checks, so your digital identity check and our AML check that we offer. So I'll go into more details on those shortly and give you a little demo of them. Verify funds, so we have our source of funds product, which we offer, which will give you bank statements for an individual. And we're also currently launching a brand new enhanced verification of funds product, hopefully in the next few weeks, which will give you access to source of funds, source of wealth, proof of funds, and account analysis, which will be really, really cool. Then at the end, we kind of collate that all into one matter, as we call it at InfoTrack. So you can have access to all the data you need for that client. So all the personal information, all the property information, and all the financial information in one easily accessible place. So you guys can make the call whether you want to work with that individual or whether you do not. Onboarding in a nutshell, essentially. So if you want to go on to the next screen for me. So verification of identity. It's one of those things of lots of different places. We'll call them lots of different things. You've got your biometric ID checks, you've got your identity checks, you've got a scanner passport, all of these sorts of things. Back in the day, it used to be a case of someone would turn up to your office with a passport in hand and go, please, I'm this person. Obviously, the way the world is now, we try and do as much remotely as we can. So we have developed an identity check service, which will allow you to scan a picture, scan your ID document, so the driver's license, passport, etc. Take a selfie, so take a picture of your face using your phone or your laptop. We then do a cross comparison between those 2 faces. So whether we do about 85, 90 data points across the face, and we'll match and we'll try and get those to match. If we don't get a full match, it will fail, and we'll say, hey, you need to have another look at this. If we are comfortable they are the same person, we also run some address checks on that as well. We will issue a pass in that result. So you get 2 address checks, And also we check if your address, your identity document is correct and is not fraudulent, essentially. So someone hasn't taken a photograph of a driving license and tried to use it. It's not a fake passport, it's not a dodgy ID. As part of our AML service as well, we will also then check against PEPs and sanctions databases, CFAS, mortality register, the HALO database, all those additional things to make sure that this person you are trying to onboard is legitimate and is who they say they are. Want to go into the next slide for me? Verification of funds is the other side of that. You've kind of confirmed that a person is who they say they are. They're not affiliated with any dodgy people. They haven't got any past records of fraud, etc. They're not sanctioned by the EU, for example. But you still need to know that their money comes from a legitimate source, because someone may be legitimate, but funds came into their account the wrong way. So this is what our verification of funds product does. Current process is we utilize open banking. So we access someone's account directly. InfoTrack never see any of that information. Peppermint never sees any of that information. It's all done through our partner TrueLayer. Log in, we get some statements back. We verify that the account is in their name, and we verify that the account is legitimate and isn't just some dodgy account, and give you statements for 6 to 12 months from that bank account. That allows you to then go through and have a look and see, do these transactions make sense for the property they're trying to buy, or what this person's trying to do. Our new verification of funds product kind of takes that a step further and will allow you to provide proof of funds. So if you've got a £200,000 property you're trying to buy, prove to me you've got £200,000, got £200,000 sitting in a bank account, great. How did you accumulate that? Tell me how that money got into your account. And then we do some core account analysis on there, basically trying to say, hey, you've kind of over the last 12 months, I can see on average, your balance has been about £500. You're usually inputting £1,200 a month. How are you managing to do this? Some cool stuff coming up the pipe there for InfoTrack. Next slide. Our product walkthrough. I thought I had another speech there to do, but no. So we'll crack on with the product walkthrough and I'll show you some InfoTrack platform. Cool, so you should be able to see the InfoTrack platform here, and this is in our eCOS ordering screen. So you kind of land here, got eCOS up here as a little pin. And this is the information that we need, a bit of information about your parties, but not too much. But this is the information that will be pre-populated through the Peppermint integration, which Jamie will show you shortly. I am going to cheat slightly, guys, I'm very sorry. And just hit my little demo mode button there to pre-populate this information. So what we look for is a matter number. And this is your unique reference. This is how you find this case later on. The address of the property being sold, if it's a sale or a purchase. If it's not, if you're just doing a verification, then it's just a description. So it could just be as simple as saying ID check or something similar like that. Any forms that you want to order. So on the sale, we've got seller questionnaire, TA6, TA10, TA7. You're going on to a purchase, we've got purchase questionnaire, remortgage, transfer of equity, etc. And these are all interactive forms for your client to submit. We've then got our three products. So you've got verification of ID, AML check, and verification of funds. The cool thing of our AML check is that it is linked to the verification of ID document. So we cannot run an AML until someone has passed their verification of ID, essentially. So they need to go through the steps to identify that they are who they say they are. They have done that biometric check. We extract that information directly from the person's ID document, and then we run the AML check against that. So it's one of the only on the market that offer AML checks on digitally verified data, which is really quite cool. What we'll ask for down here is the party information, so the person you want to search against. So that's the title, name, their email address, and then also a mobile phone number. And that's because all of our workspaces are two-factor authentication. So before anyone accesses it, if someone gets a link, we'll send a text to their phone and ask them to input the 6-digit code to make sure only person accessing their data is who needs to access it. Down here, we've got covering documents, and you can upload as many of these as you like or as few. You don't need to add them if you don't want to. But this is stuff for your client care letters, your terms and conditions. As standard, we will add a signature to these for your client to sign. If you want additional fields added, you can use our little option here for signing tags, and you can add some cool stuff in like tick boxes, dates, and additional fields to be added there. And down here is the emails that will be sent to your client. So we have different templates available for sales, for purchases, and these are all editable by you guys, so you can say exactly what you want to say. So in this case, got welcome to onboarding. This was changing it to say related to the sale of your property, VOI, VOF purchase, etc. So these are all able to be set up in your InfoTrack account. So that's your ordering screen, fairly simple. You can add as many parties as you want, and you can also just do one at a time, whatever works for you. If I'm going to look into our AML document now. And this is what our AML result will look like when you get it back. So you'll see you've got two different sections, BOI result summary and AML result summary. We'll show you the image that we've extracted from the ID document and also the selfie that was then taken at that point. So on the front sheet, you'll know exactly who this is. You'll go down into your ID document verification, and you can see here, we'll show you the document that was scanned and used, all the information we've managed to extract from that ID document, document details, and then your results. So you can see here, we'll tell you whether it's a legitimate document, was present when the scan was taken, and were we able to successfully extract data from there. Face to ID image verification. So we'll do a scan between the two and make sure that they are the same person, and either issue a pass or a review in that section. As we know, computers aren't flawless, no matter how much we want to try and pretend they are. So sometimes it may just need a human just to double check it for them. Then address verification for identity. We will run a check against the UK credit header and also the electoral roll, looking for 2 or more matches against name and date of birth for this person at this address. If we cannot find 2 matches, we'll flag a review and say, sorry, we couldn't find 2 matches. And it may be legitimate. They may never have registered to vote and may never have taken out a credit card, but we found that most people usually have 2 across the board, so we can identify that they are legitimate individuals. Then you've got a section here for HMLR Safe Harbor. So Safe Harbor is a land registry directive, I guess is probably the word, gold standard, to say if you manage to achieve gold standard Safe Harbor, if this person ended up not being who they say they were, they ended up being fraudulent, we will not come and chase you for lots of money. We will not come and chase down because you've done all you can. And Safe Harbor basically requires you to use your phone, use your ID document that has an NFC chip in it, which is kind of like your passports or your EU identity cards. Using our app, you scan them together, extract directly from the NFC chip itself, and then also running 2 address checks at that point. Pass those, great. You've got the HMLR Safe Harbor. It's not a requirement at the moment, it's just guidance, but we offer it within InfoTrack if needed. Then we're into the super cool bit of risk assessment results for the AML. We will either issue a compliant or a not compliant result. If you are not compliant, we will tell you why. So whether that's you haven't got your 2 address check passes, you've been flagged as a CFAS fraud case, or a couple which have been interesting is they've been marked as deceased and at that name and that address. So we haven't been able to prove that they are who they say they are, and there's something a bit dodgy going on there. We will give you 4 reasons as to why someone failed. We will show you the data that we extracted and the data we searched against, along with the address data. And then any PEPs and sanctions that have been revealed will also show here with a photograph where available of that PEP or of that sanction. So being a PEP will not result in a non-compliant result. It will kind of just say, this is a politically exposed person. You may want to do some extra due diligence. If you're sanctioned, it will flag as a non-compliant, and you've then got to do some extra investigation. If it's been marked as non-compliant without being true, like you'd say, no, this isn't the sanction, my person, I'm fine, we offer an update service for you to go in and update that result and then say, I'm happy this person is who they say they are, don't worry, and we can reissue a compliant result in that case. So that's the AML and VOI. Then our verification of funds is essentially a very basic report at the minute. You get the details of the bank account that's been searched on the person. We will highlight the top 20 debit transactions over the 6 or 12-month period for that person in that account, top 20 credit transactions, and then just give you a full breakdown of that account history. So any outgoings, incomings, and the running balance for that time frame. Like I said, we have an improved version of this product launching in the next few weeks, and we will be running webinars on those as it kind of starts to go live. So please keep an eye out for those if you want to learn more about our new verification of funds product. And then the one everyone always gets really excited for, maybe if I can hit close, apparently it wasn't working there. We have our TA6 form, which is a digital form available to be filled out. It all gets filled out into your law society templates, and it's just a questionnaire that the users fill in online with yes, no questions and a bit of extra information, which then ports directly into this form to be used in the transaction. And we do that for TA6, TA10, and TA7, I believe, and that's all my TA forms. But we also have lots of other forms for gifters, purchase, commercial, private client. And if you just want a straight up ID check, you'll just go for verification there. And that is essentially eCOS. There's lots of other cool stuff it does. I could be here for 3 hours showing you all the cool bits that eCOS does. But for a high level overview, that's pretty much it. I'm going to hand over to Jamie now, and he'll be able to show you how Peppermint can populate this information, and then we'll come back around at the end for some questions. So over to you, Jamie.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see my screen now. I'm in a Peppermint sandbox system. Excuse the garish colors on the toolbar, etc. But hopefully this sort of screen is familiar to a lot of you guys. So I've just landed on my matter. So I've got a new purchase case open here, and I want to kind of trigger that launch into the eCOS ordering service. Before I get to that, I'll just quickly describe what's actually happening as far as the data capture is concerned. What you'll see just on this matter form, I've got an InfoTrack tab here. There's actually a shortcut there into what is essentially a mirror of the InfoTrack data model. So what we do is we don't expect users to directly interact with that data model. What we do is we actually use the workflow engine, and we provide a set of kind of pre-configured actions and workflows that will actually take care with populating that data model. So what that means from a user's perspective is they, whether they're using the Peppermint pre-built conveyancing content pack, or perhaps your own custom content packs, what those helpers can do is actually start to pull the data out of the appropriate tables within Peppermint and populate it through into that data model which the InfoTrack service requires. So from a user's perspective, they will add their connections, or they will populate their property details on their conveyancing form as usual. The workflow engines will pop that into the InfoTrack data structure, and then from the user's perspective, they will just simply trigger the InfoTrack service from the menu. So under the ribbon bar here, you can see at the top of the screen, I've got a shortcut there to InfoTrack. So this is for Lewis Donald. So as we launch into that InfoTrack service, so it's now opening InfoTrack, same screen that Lauren took you into earlier. You'll see we can now go into our eCOS ordering. Just launch into there, and you'll see the information. So the matter, the address, all that kind of information is just there for you. It's just been pulled through directly. I've got some vendor details, but actually, if I was interested here in the purchase flavor of eCOS, we can go in, and exactly like Lauren showed, you go in, select the services that you require, and then you can just send that to client, and that's the order placed. We've got an option here around the order on behalf of, and this is just something just to flag up what you can do as far as your kind of your user accounts are concerned, is have individual logins for the InfoTrack service, or you can use a single InfoTrack login depending on how you want it configured. The benefit of having individual logins for your users into the InfoTrack services, that their email address is tied to that login, which means that they will get email notifications as well as actually seeing them within Peppermint. There is a slight overhead to that because it means you've then got to maintain those details on those individual user records, but actually it's probably well worth it just to get those email notifications as well. So you can use a generic InfoTrack account, or you can use individual accounts, and it can be configured either way. But yeah, you would just simply, as Lauren showed you, select the services that you want, hit send to client, and that will then place that order on your behalf. Okay, just see a summary of the orders that we've placed there. So what's happening now is we poll then the InfoTrack service. Obviously, that'll probably take a few hours to come back. Hopefully that won't take too long, but we then poll the InfoTrack service. So from a user's perspective, let me just switch to another case where I've had some previous orders. If I then go back to that InfoTrack tab, what you'll see then is a history of the orders that you've placed. So they could be eCOS, they could be other searches, anything that you place as far as an order through the InfoTrack service is concerned will get logged within this table. And these individual entries here are actually activity types. So for you guys, using your dashboards to capture, see what activities you've got coming up and things that are outstanding, you can then start to see those InfoTrack orders through those activity screens as well. So if I actually look at the summary detail of my case, you can see in my open activities, I've got some open InfoTrack orders there. And then in the InfoTrack screen, I got them broken down, and just some status messages, ones that have been completed successfully, things like that. And then once they've been reviewed, you can just mark those off as completed, and then they will drop off of the open activity lists. What's actually happening within the order itself, as I said, we're polling the InfoTrack service, then waiting for results to come back to us. So if I just drop into a previous order, what you'll see in here then is the details of that order. So you'll see the date it was ordered, and then you'll start to get the information back from the service. So the date it was completed, the cost for the service as well. So that's really important. So, if you're using the Peppermint PMS, you can already kind of trigger transaction requisitions through the workflow engine, or if you have an integration with a third-party practice management system, you might be able to trigger the generation of an expense or a disbursement off the back of that information that has been captured back. Essentially, all that information, the order ID, that sort of stuff, is all then pulled back down into the Peppermint system. And as well as that, all of those documents, so all of those, everything that gets returned with that order, all those documents that Lauren was showing you, those PDFs will then all come back into the Peppermint system as well. So what we do with those is you'll see those within the order record itself. So within the timeline, you'll see they get attached to as notes to the timeline of the actual order itself. So, there's one that was placed earlier, just cancel check, but it would be those eCOS documents that Lauren showed us. And what we also do is we then strip out those documents that have come back in. So we'll take them, they're returned by the service attached to this, but then we'll then take those and file those into the PMS for you. So that regardless of whether that's SharePoint or the iManage DMS, we will then strip out those individual documents so that they're in the DMS too. So that's kind of how the order gets placed and how we return the results back. We also, just checking that I've mentioned everything I wanted to there. Yeah, so I mentioned the individual versus global option around, you know, who you order on behalf of. We can track through all of those previous orders through the activities on the matter or looking at open dashboards, and we can use that financial data then to generate transactions and that sort of stuff. So as I mentioned, we hold that in a data model that mirrors what InfoTrack need. We do provide a bunch of starter actions and workflows to be able to populate that data model. So we call them integration helpers, but they're essentially workflows and actions that your developers will already be familiar with. And essentially anyone who's, you know, looking to get this set up within the Peppermint, they're in Peppermint environments, you know, they can just reach out to their Peppermint project manager or their customer success manager, and we can guide you further on how you actually set up that integration in the first place. But it's available for our CX customers and our CX365 customers now as well. Okay, so that's really just what I wanted to quickly show you there. I guess we move on to any questions.
Excellent, that's great. Thank you very much indeed, Jamie. Okay, so on to the Q&A. So, thank you, Lauren and Jamie, for your insights and for demonstrating how InfoTrack's eCOS system works, along with all of its features and how to access it through Peppermint. That's really useful. We haven't had too many questions come in, but I have got a couple for you. So we'll jump straight into the Q&A section of the webinar now, if that's okay, please. The first question is for Lauren. Is an out-of-date passport a valid ID?
It's a valid ID in terms of it will allow you to do the biometric check. We'll be able to do the biometric check through the liveness between the selfie and the document itself and say this person is that person. We'll be unable to issue a past ID document, past ID check in that instance because it is expired, but we'll flag that to you and say, hey, the liveness check, it's a legitimate passport. Unfortunately, it's expired. So this is why this is review, which you can then update if you want to. So you can then say, no, I'm chill accepting the expired ID. I'll update this using our VOI update service.
Perfect, thank you. The next question, I'm not sure who's best placed to answer this, but the question is there a way that the ID or AML checks can update a risk record in Peppermint?
I believe on our side currently, no, I don't think our integration supports that because I think we have that across a few CMSs where we don't support that option. But Jamie, is it maybe something we're going to look at implementing at some point?
So I think it depends on the information that we'll actually have back in that order. You know, one of the things that we have been able to do recently when we're starting to do more and more using the Microsoft Power Platform is actually, you know, read out of documents. So using the Microsoft AI tools to actually extract information out of documents. So I think if that information is coming back in a format that is structured, which all of the InfoTrack documents are, we'd certainly be able to read that information out of there. You know, the Power Platform tools that are available to us mean that, you know, once we've got those results, we can do something with that piece of information, which could mean updating a risk assessment record or you know, whatever it may be, putting it directly through onto the InfoTrack results itself. So I think it comes down to, is it information that comes back via the InfoTrack service, in which case it would end up on one of these InfoTrack order records. Or if it's something that's just within that results document, we would have ways of extracting that out using the Microsoft tools.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, next question. How can this be integrated with Peppermint before the matter is open?
So before the matters open, so we obviously generate the InfoTrack order, but the InfoTrack data structure can live or does live independently. So what we actually pass over to the InfoTrack system is you know, it's its own complete data structure. So I think we could probably populate that, you know, via our CMI or whatever it may be, and then look at perhaps providing the shortcut via that record type as well. I think what we'd be looking at is some customization there to make that work, but at the moment it doesn't seem like it's something that wouldn't be able to be achieved. I think it was just to say that that isn't part of the integration out of the box, and we'd have to look at the modifications needed for that.
Okay, lovely, thank you. The next question, I think this is probably for Lauren. Is eCOS a product that is already in live use by Peppermint customers?
I believe so. It's used, eCOS is used by many thousands of people. At the moment, whether they're Peppermint customers or not, I couldn't tell you, but it is successful in all the other CMSs, and I believe it has been successful Peppermint in previously, but I couldn't tell you a guarantee yes or no on that one, I'm afraid.
No problem. And the next question is the eCOS solution and the data it processes all held within the UK?
So our data, I think there's two ways I could read this one. So I'm going to go with one. If I've answered it incorrectly, please come back and tell me, no, I meant the other way. We have our data providers who are GBG and Accurus for all of the data we check for UK credit headers or for the electoral roll. All that data is held UK based, along with we use GBG for ID scan as well. However, if we also have our backup supplier Jumio for ID scans, who are based in the US. And so some data may go via the US when doing the facial scans, but we don't check any data itself based in the USA. However, all data is only held for 30 days across all of our suppliers, and InfoTrack will not have access to anything after 30 days. It is automatically deleted. So we are compliant with any kind of regulations we need to be there. If your question actually was, is it UK based on the AML checks? Yes, it is, because all of our address checks are UK, but our sanctions and PEP databases are international at that point.
Great, thank you, Lauren. The next question is there scope for InfoTrack to expand private client questionnaires to cover probate teams?
There is always scope to do these sorts of questionnaire enhancements. I am constantly trying to work out what the next step is. So if there's anything specific you would like in those private questionnaires or probate questionnaires, please reach out to me directly and I can get it onto our product backlog, and we kind of work our way through that. We are constantly improving our software and our questionnaires. We do a new code release every single night with new changes in our software. So suggestions is what I'm always after. So please reach out and we can make something work for you.
Perfect, thank you, Lauren. If the scan of the ID document and the live facial recognition doesn't score a pass, and there is a need for further verification by a human, who does this? Would that be InfoTrack or would that be the firm?
It would be the firm. InfoTrack aren't going to take any kind of liability there and say, yes, this is definitely this person, we'd like you to double check that. We will issue a final completed report which just states review, and then you can say, yes, I'm happy with this, or I'm not. You can then use our update service to switch that to a pass result with a little comment and a timestamp of when that happened.
Okay, perfect. Lovely. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our questions for the moment. So that means that we have the ability to wrap the webinar up, unless anybody has any others that they'd like to ask. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Jamie from Peppermint for joining us today, and to Lauren from InfoTrack for her demonstration, and to Jamie for his demonstration, which I hope everybody's found useful and informative. If you do have any other questions about anything you've learned today, or questions in relation to electronic client onboarding in general, then please do contact us using the details on your screen, or feel free to reach out to your account manager, who will be happy to assist you. This session is going to be recorded, as mentioned earlier, So we will send you a copy so that you can refer back to it. So I think all that's left to say now is thank you very much for joining us. Hope everybody's found this informative. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Lauren, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
you. Okay, perfect. Lovely. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our questions for the moment. So that means that we have the ability to wrap the webinar up unless anybody has any others that they'd like to ask. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Jamie from Peppermint for joining us today, and to Lauren from InfoTrack for her demonstration, and to Jamie for his demonstration, which I hope everybody's found useful and informative. If you do have any other questions about anything you've learned today, or questions in relation to electronic client onboarding in general, then please do contact us using the details on your screen, or feel free to reach out to your account manager, who will be happy to assist you. This session is going to be recorded, as mentioned earlier, so we will send you a copy so that you can refer back to it. So I think all that's left to say now is thank you very much for joining us. Hope everybody's found this informative. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Lauren, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You.